The Earth receives a full spectrum of sunlight 24 hours a day. Just a single hour of this sunlight is enough to power our electronic devices for a whole year. This is the same energy that keeps us warm, as light is converted to heat in our atmosphere. The more CO2 in our atmosphere, the more infrared light is trapped and converted to heat. We know roughly how much CO2 we've added since the Industrial Revolution through basic addition with some very big numbers. So, we have an invisible gas trapping an invisible light, creating an imperceptible rise in temperature of about 1.1 degrees Celsius. Today, Banff and the rest of the world face a challenge to our ecology, our economy, and potentially our existence. It's a chaotic chimera responsible for fires, floods, heat waves, and cold snaps. Climate change affects us all unequally. Now, 1.1 degrees does not sound like very much, but here in the Rocky Mountains, the average annual temperature is up by 2 degrees, 3 degrees in the Arctic. This, for us, means less snowpack. It means habitat destruction for species that require very specific climate cycles, like bears. One of the most noticeable changes we'll find is in the glaciers that feed our beautiful blue lakes, which some of them may turn brown, not to turn blue again until they're once again fed by glaciers. But what about where you live? Where are you visiting from? If you're from North America or Northern Europe, you are subject to see colder winters at the hands of something called a polar vortex. Now, back to the globe. A polar vortex starts when we have the jet stream, a current of air flowing around the northern regions of the globe that holds in cold Arctic air. As that jet stream weakens, the cold air is able to break into temperate regions, like our cities. It unleashes a frozen wave of terror that in Winnipeg they call January. And that was a joke. And likewise, the warming of our seas creates a decrease in the warm northbound currents to places like the UK and Ireland, once again causing colder winters. So we can expect to see warmer temperatures in the mountains and in the Arctic, and colder temperatures in the plains and in our cities. But what about rainfall? The Rockies are getting drier. Economically, this is a major detriment to our forestry industry, our ski industry, but beyond that, our agriculture, as everything east of these mountains is fed by the streams you find in this very valley. Now, in most of the Middle East, rainfall has decreased by 25% since industrialized times. Now, even at the forefront of technology, farmers are still struggling to water their crops properly, and they can expect to see produce increase in cost by double in the next 20 years. Conversely, the Caribbean and Europe are expected to receive more rainfall than ever. As the air gets warmer, it's able to trap more moisture. This means more floods and an 80% chance in Category 4 and 5 hurricanes in the Atlantic Basin. We're looking at the potential of dry areas getting drier, wet areas getting dangerously wet. But why care? What if I told you the most deadly natural force out there is a heat wave, followed closely second by the ever more destructive flooding? Now, both of these are increasing in intensity and frequency, claiming hundreds of thousands of lives every single year. In Banff, we are seeing changes that will uproot entire species, while the global economy is set to take a 4% hit, mostly in developed nations. Climate change affects us all unequally. It affects areas in different ways and in different intensities, yet calls for unilateral action. COVID-19 has shown us that we can change our behavior individually for a greater world change. So I urge you, leaving this tour today, to vote for governments that call for ecological reform, invest in companies that value the environment, but most of all, show people the postcard that you bought or the picture you took of these glaciers and these lakes and tell them this is what we stand to lose.